Hey, it's Wednesday night. I'm at Trinity class. You could be at Trinity class too. It's open to anybody that wants to show up. A little bit after 7 Wednesday nights. Come participate. Why? Well, because you get to learn about a lot of cool energies. Tonight we meditated on the energy of glory. That's a weird one. Glory, glory, hallelujah. That sort of thing. Big, expansive, divine. It's going to be difficult to have a physical happening make you feel that, but I'm going to give it a try. You're going to need to be with me at every step of the way, or we're going to miss this one. It's very misty and ethereal. In simplest terms, glory is seeing the presence of the divine in ordinary things. You look at a sunrise, you see a baby being born, you watch an old person get up and get out of their wheelchair and walk away, and you think, wow, that's the presence of God. That's divinity in action. Then you experience glory. Hard to manufacture that on the spur of the moment, but I have a little exercise. This is a posture of defense that I was taught as a diffusing technique. If there's a confrontation about to happen, you can maybe diffuse the situation. You can at least put yourself in a good protected position if it does go south. It's called the hand to God position. And so I've picked this one to help us experience glory. It works like this. If you have somebody in front of you and there's an aggressive situation going on, you don't want to have your hands down. That's the worst possible thing. If Brian wants to start something, my hands down, go. I got a long way to go up and intercept that and stop that. If, on the other hand, my hands are higher than his, go. 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 I'm doing good if I can come down on whatever action is going on instead of trying to go up. So it's good to have your hands up, but if you suddenly raise your hands, it looks like you're being aggressive and it can set the person off. So you got to have a good reason for raising your hands. And that's basically what this little trick does, is that it gives you a good reason. It also, if you do the 3 parts of it in order with intention, can diffuse the situation. The first part of it is that I want to flop my hand out here like this. If Brian were going to punch me with that roundhouse, this is a good way to protect myself. Even if it's going for my ribs, it's a good way. This little flop your hand out gesture is a nice protection in case there is actual violence, but it is also a wonderful way to speak to the person's subconscious. If I put my hand up here like this and say, Brian, we're going to work this out, there's nothing in his subconscious that goes, yeah, I'd love to do that. But if I flop my hand out here and say, what would it look like for us to get through this? It's like I'm holding a little crystal ball here and I'm inviting him to imagine an image inside of it. What would it look like for us to get through this? Just those words activate his visual cortex. It now starts sending him images of, well, what would it look like for us to resolve this? He may choose to reject those and go, I don't want to resolve it. But still, those images are in his head now. We have something new that has entered the equation. It's not important exactly what words you use. You could say, can you picture us being friends or something like that? But you do have to use a visual word. It's not enough to go, hey, have you ever heard of anybody resolving things like this? That won't go to the visual cortex. It needs to be a visual word. So I like to say, what would it look like for us to get through this? That's step 1. Step 2 is I'm going to touch my heart and I'm going to say, because is a very powerful word. Because tells your subconscious this is extra important. If I say, don't pet the dog, you may or may not pet the dog depending on how hard he begs. But if I say, don't pet the dog because he rolled in poison ivy, you're probably not going to pet the dog. Because is always used in situations where there is more reason to grant the request than if you hadn't used because. So just by using that word, you're telling the person's brain, this is super important. what would it look like for us to get through this? Because, then you're going to raise your hand as if you're testifying and say, I really love your intensity. It doesn't have to be that. It can be, I love the way you're standing up for yourself. I love your moxie, kid. I love the passion you're displaying. I love how strong you are standing in your space. I love your sense of justice. Anything at all that you find to be praiseworthy in this situation, beyond the fact that they're being aggressive. You want to look beyond the pattern that is being displayed and see something real about the person that you can love. If you do that, A, you're telling yourself there's more going on here than this little pattern clash. But B, you're also telling them, hey, we can look beyond these momentary differences. All of this together, none of it by itself will probably resolve it, but all of this together often resolves the situation. Brian's giving me a bunch of aggressive energy and eye contact and threatening me. I feel all that coming at me. I want to do these three things in order. What would it look like for us to get through this? Because I really love your intensity here. You can do those three things. You might dissolve the situation. You could kind of see that his energy went, whoa, whoa, okay. And things begin to shift inside of it. More importantly, in that moment when you go 1, 2, 3, you'll feel inside of yourself this sense that there's more here than just two humans clashing. And in that moment, you have experienced glory. And if you like it, you should come to Trinity class.